If you've been following the channel, you know we bought an abandoned vineyard in Bordeaux recently, and there's a lot of work to do. Basically, Bordeaux is going through a bit of a crisis at the moment as a result largely of overproduction. And so producers are abandoning vines left, right and centre, and also ripping them up where they can to change their operations to react to the current wine market a little bit better, where people are drinking less but higher quality. I think this was a similar situation for the previous owner of our vines. He sought to sell them after leaving them abandoned for a year. His feeling was that he probably had an overproduction as well and had too many hectares of vines, so wanted to get rid of some pretty quickly. When we bought them, we felt like after just 1 year of being abandoned, there'd be a lot of work to do, but it wasn't the end of the world, and that actually the soil and the location of the vineyard meant that in the long term, there was a huge potential for quality. Although the vines are in a bit of a state now, we really believe in the potential for the vineyards to create really unique and concentrated and complex wines going forwards. But to do that, we basically have three main objectives that are going to take us a couple of years of work to do starting this year. The first one is to get the basics in order. So across all of the parcels, there's broken trellising or trellising that also could do with being modernised in the next 3 or 4 years. And basically, we can't even harvest or grow any grapes until we sort this out, in particular the broken parts. So very quickly, we're going to have to get on top of that. Secondly, we also need to get the vine back under control a little bit because it's been growing wild for a year. Generally, I believe in the approach of working with the vine and not trying to fight its natural tendencies. But the reality is after having grown wild for a year, we do need to bring it back under some form of order and get it back into a good shape. And that will allow us to exploit it a little bit more effectively, so to farm it. And also it will give the vine a good amount of direction and make it focus its energy in the right places. So on growing the grapes rather than on growing its wood very wide. And then thirdly, we need to help the ecosystem get back in balance with the vines a little bit. So last year was a very wet year in Bordeaux and the vines were decimated by mildew. And also on top of that, with the water, the grass grew an incredible amount over at least 2 growth spurts, maybe even 3. And what that means is that currently the vine is being totally outcompeted for resources. It's had a shock of disease. And on top of that, it has grass growing everywhere, using up all the water and resources. And so what we need to do is we need to find the balance again between the vine and the ecosystem, because that's what drives quality and longevity in the long term for the vine. So a while ago during winter, I went to do a bit of an audit on the vines to understand the challenges a little bit more and also to identify the specific work that we needed to do. So yeah, let's go and take a look at that. So, as I said, there's a lot of work to put this vineyard back in order over this year. One of the things I want to point out first, though, is if you look here, all of these shriveled, withered grape stems, these were abandoned last year. And to put it into context of these grapes never even developed into actual grapes last year. They were hammered so hard by mildew that not a single grape was produced last year in Bordeaux. That puts it into context of how bad it was. So these received no treatment and these didn't even develop into fully blown grapes. So on the theme of work to be done this year, this is going to be one of the biggest ones starting in a couple of weeks, as we need to prune these vines and get them back in order. As you can see, there's just growth everywhere. It's an enormous mess. It's going to be really challenging. We've got a great team coming out to do it, but it is going to impact what we do in the vineyard this year. The vine needs to restart, find its feet again, and this much pruning is going to be a big shock for it. So as we were saying, the vines haven't been exploited. They've been abandoned for a few years, and this is the result. So as you can see here, this is meant to be holding the entire trellising and putting the tension on the entire trellising for this row of vines, sorry. This is repeated across all of the parcels. We've got a big job in the next few weeks in winter to go and find all of these broken posts, fix them, get the trellising sorted back, so when in springtime the vines start growing, we can make sure that they're all tied up and ready to go for the season.